You might not even realize it, but there's a permission you might be longing for this holiday season. Permission to eat the cookie. Permission to enjoy the party. Permission to stop trying so hard. But what if I told you the permission you're actually longing for has nothing to do with food and everything to do with something much deeper? Welcome to Binge Eating Breakthrough, the podcast to help you stop feeling out of control around food and build trust with your body. If you've tried everything but still feel stuck, you're not alone. I've been there too. I'm Jane Pilger, and I'm here to help you see binge eating in a new way so you can finally break free. Each week, you'll get the tools and insights to create peace with food and your body. Your breakthrough starts now. Hello, trusted listener. I consider you a trusted listener because I trust that you're willing to look beneath the surface of your food struggles. I trust that you're here ready to explore what's really going on when you find yourself longing for permission. Permission you don't actually expect to receive, but desperately wish you could give yourself. And I trust that what I share today might challenge you in the most compassionate way possible. Today, we're talking about permission. And I know that might sound simple, maybe even obvious. But stay with me because what I'm about to share is something that I see playing out with almost every single person that I work with. And it's one of the most profound shifts you can make in your relationship with food and with yourself. Here's what I notice, especially at this time of year. You're longing for permission. Permission to eat the holiday cookies. Permission to have a second helping at dinner. Permission to skip the gym and rest instead. Permission to not be perfect. And here's the thing, you might not actually be waiting for that permission. Maybe you're someone who, like me, pushes through. You figure it out. You make it happen no matter what. Or maybe you do wait, hoping someone will tell you it's okay. But either way, whether you are pushing or waiting, underneath is a longing, a deep, quiet longing for someone, anyone to tell you it's okay, that you're doing it right, that you can relax, that you don't have to have it all figured out. You might eat the cookie anyway, but you feel guilty about it, and then end up eating a lot more cookies instead. You skip the gym, but you beat yourself up for it. Or maybe you don't do the thing at all because you're paralyzed by not knowing if it's the right answer. Either way, without that internal permission, everything feels harder. Everything carries this weight of, am I doing this right? Everything becomes one more thing to manage and control and perfect. But here's what I've learned, both in my own journey and working with hundreds of other people. The permission you're longing for around food, permission to eat this or not eat that, permission to enjoy a meal or have dessert without guilt, that's not actually the permission you need. The permission you need is so much deeper than that. All right, let me explain. So you're standing at a holiday party, looking at the dessert table, and you're having that internal dialogue. Should I? Shouldn't I? If I have one, will I be able to stop? What if I blow it? Maybe I should just skip it entirely. In that moment, you think what you really want is permission to eat the food. But that's not what's actually happening. What's actually happening is this. You're longing for permission to be imperfect. You're longing for permission to not have it all figured out. You're longing for permission to trust yourself, even when you're not sure what the right choice is. You're longing for permission to show up messy, uncertain, and human. And this is so much bigger than food. The reason you struggle so much with food decisions isn't because you don't know enough about nutrition or willpower or portion control. You've probably tried every diet, read every book, and have more information than most people will ever accumulate in a lifetime. The reason you struggle is because somewhere along the way, you learned there is a right way to do everything, including eating, including taking care of yourself, and that any deviation from that right way means you've failed. So whether you keep moving forward despite not having that permission, or you stay stuck because you don't feel like you have it, either way, you never actually feel like you have permission to just be, to be imperfect, to be uncertain, to be human. You've been operating under the belief that if you could just find the right plan, the right rules, the right amount of control, then you'd finally feel safe. You'd finally feel good enough. You'd finally be able to relax. You'd finally have that permission that you're longing for. But here's the truth. No amount of perfect eating will ever make you feel worthy. No diet plan will ever give you the permission to be imperfect that you're longing for. No external rule book will ever teach you to trust yourself. And the exhausting part? Whether you are pushing forward without permission or staying stuck waiting for it, everything feels harder. Everything carries this weight. Everything becomes one more thing to manage and control and perfect. The permission you're longing for, the real permission you need, is this: permission to be human. Permission to not have all the answers. Permission to make decisions that feel right in your body, even if they don't match what you think you should do. Permission to eat the cookie without guilt, whether you're someone who eats it anyway and then spirals, or someone who doesn't eat it but feels deprived. Permission to show up to the party and simply be present, rather than managing and controlling every single thing you put in your mouth. You see, for some people, this shows up as pushing forward without permission, achieving, succeeding, doing the thing anyway, but carrying that weight of guilt and doubt and pressure. And for others, it shows up as staying stuck, paralyzed by not knowing what's right, unable to move forward without that external validation. And either way, underneath is that same deep longing, a longing to feel okay about your choices, to feel like you're enough even when you're not perfect, to finally exhale and know you don't have to have it all figured out. Let me share a story that really illustrates this. I was working with a client, let's call her Sarah, who came to me completely exhausted. She had spent decades trying to be perfect with food. She knew all the rules. She could recite nutrition information better than most dietitians. But she was stuck in this cycle of being good all week and then binging on the weekends. In one of our sessions, she was beating herself up about a work event where she had eaten too much and then continued eating when she got home. As a side note, I just want you to know, if you are somebody who goes to work events or goes to social events, goes out with your friends, and then eats more when you get home, maybe you stop on the way home, maybe when you get home, you keep eating, I want you to know this is normal. Now, does everybody do this? No. But are you the only one that does it? No. I just want you to know it is way more common than you realize. Nobody talks about it. Nobody shares these things. But because I'm on the listening end of so many of these conversations where people are sharing with me for the first time what they're doing when they get home after these events, after you host the party and everybody leaves, I just want you to know you are not alone in this if this is your reality. And sometimes even just knowing that, there is relief in that. I can remember so many times just feeling like I must be the only one who does this. And part of why I share so many stories and I love doing this podcast is so that you can know you are not alone. Do you have to stay this way? Will it always be this way? No, 100% not. There is a way out of all of this. But where you are right now, you are not alone, even if it feels like you are. And I hope even that provides a little bit of relief for you. Okay, back to Sarah. As she and I explored what was happening, she just kept saying, I just need more willpower. I just need to stick to the plan better. But when I asked her to slow down and really look at what was going on that day, here's what we discovered. She had spent the entire day at this work event performing, smiling when she didn't feel like it, agreeing with people when she actually disagreed, presenting a polished, perfect version of herself, managing everyone else's expectations and emotions. And by the time she got home, she was completely depleted. And the part of her that had been holding it all together, the part that had been performing all day, needed a break. That part was exhausted. And food became the way she finally gave herself permission to let go, to not be perfect, to stop trying so hard. But here's what she didn't realize. She didn't actually need permission to eat. What she needed was permission to stop performing, permission to be imperfect, permission to take off the mask and just be herself, messy and uncertain and tired. And once she saw that, everything shifted. Food stopped being the enemy. The binge stopped being this shameful thing she needed to control, and instead it became information, a signal that she was asking too much of herself, that she needed to find ways to be more authentic throughout her day, not just when she was alone with food at night. And this is what I mean when I say the permission you need isn't about food. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that you don't struggle with giving yourself permission to eat or to enjoy meals or rest. You absolutely might. And in fact, most people struggling with food do struggle with these surface level permissions. But here's what I've discovered. When you give yourself permission at the deeper level, permission to be imperfect, permission to be human, the surface level permissions start to come naturally. You don't have to force yourself to give yourself permission to eat the cookie. Instead, you can trust yourself. You can listen to your body. You can make choices from a place of self-trust rather than self-control. The deeper permission unlocks the surface permissions. Because when you truly believe you're allowed to be imperfect, when you truly believe you don't have to have it all figured out, when you truly believe that you're worthy, even when you're messy and uncertain, then eating the cookie stops being this charged, guilt-ridden decision. It becomes just a choice, one that you can make with compassion and trust. And when we can operate with food from choice versus compulsion, that changes everything. It's permission to show up as you are, even when you're uncertain, even when you don't have it all together, and even when you are struggling. And here's the paradox. The more you can give yourself that permission, the permission to be imperfect, to be human, the easier your relationship with food becomes. Because you're no longer using food as the one place where you finally get to let go of perfection. So how do you do this? How do you start giving yourself this permission? How do you shift from seeking external validation and rules to trusting yourself? Well, if you've been listening to me for a while, this answer is not going to surprise you. It starts with awareness. Just like we've talked about in so many episodes, awareness is always the first step. So just notice when you're longing for permission. Notice when that quiet voice inside is asking, is this okay? Am I doing this right? What should I do? Or that voice, I just want someone to tell me what to do. And when you notice that longing, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, what am I really longing for here? Am I longing for permission to eat this food? Or am I longing for permission to not be perfect? Am I longing for a rule to follow? Or am I longing to trust myself without needing external validation? Then experiment with giving yourself that deeper permission. Say to yourself, I give myself permission to not have this figured out. I give myself permission to show up imperfectly. I give myself permission to trust my body even when I'm uncertain. And notice what happens in your body when you do this. You might feel resistance. You might feel scared, and that's normal. Whether you've been pushing forward without permission or staying stuck waiting for it. Giving yourself permission can feel vulnerable and unfamiliar. It might even feel wrong, like you're letting yourself off the hook or being too easy on yourself. But here's what I know. On the other side of that vulnerability is freedom. Real freedom. Not the false promise of, if I can just control my eating, then I'll be free. But actual freedom. The freedom to be yourself. To trust yourself. To show up in your life without constantly performing and managing and controlling. Now, I want to acknowledge something important. If you've spent years, maybe even decades struggling with this, whether that looks like pushing forward without permission or staying stuck without it, or some combination of both, this shift isn't going to happen overnight. You're not going to listen to this episode and suddenly feel completely comfortable giving yourself permission and trusting yourself. This is a practice. It's something you'll work on over time, and that's okay. And in fact, it's more than okay, it's human. And part of giving yourself permission to be imperfect is giving yourself permission to practice, to stumble, to not get this right immediately. Be patient with yourself. Be gentle with yourself. And notice when you fall back into old patterns, whether it's longing for external validation while pushing forward anyway, or feeling paralyzed without that validation. And instead of judging yourself for it, get curious about what you needed in that moment. What felt scary about giving yourself permission? What would it have meant to actually let yourself be imperfect? Now, I want to tell you something. This work, giving yourself permission at the deeper level, not just the surface level, can be incredibly difficult to do on your own. It's one thing to intellectually understand that you need permission to be imperfect, and it's another thing entirely to actually give yourself that permission, especially when you've spent years or decades believing the opposite. Sometimes what can happen with this is you can almost go too far to the other side. This permission can kind of turn into permissiveness, and that's not what we're talking about here. Sometimes it takes somebody else to be along the journey with you to help you really see things that you can't see on your own. Someone who can reflect back to you the patterns that you're stuck in, the beliefs that are keeping you trapped, the permission you're still not giving yourself, even when you think you are. And that's exactly the work that I do with my clients in our one-on-one coaching. And if you're listening to this and you're thinking, yes, I understand this conceptually, but I can't seem to actually do it. Or if you're realizing just how deep this permission work goes and you know you need support to navigate it, I have a few spots open right now for one-on-one coaching. And I offer what I call a breakthrough call. It's a conversation where we can explore what's really going on underneath your food struggles, what's keeping you stuck, and what it would look like to work together. No pressure, no sales pitch. It's just a genuine conversation to see if we're a good fit and if this is the right time for you to invest in this deeper under the surface, under the hood work. So if you're ready to stop doing this alone, if you're ready for someone to guide you through giving yourself the permission you've been longing for, schedule a breakthrough call with me. There's a link in the show notes. Now, even if you're not ready for one-on-one support right now, that is completely fine. Keep listening, keep practicing, keep giving yourself permission, even in small ways. Every bit of awareness, every moment of self-compassion, every time you give yourself permission to be imperfect, it all matters. And remember, your body is always communicating with you. When you're standing at that dessert table, your body might be saying, I want something sweet. But it might also be saying, that deeper level, I'm overwhelmed and I need comfort. Or I'm worried about what others are thinking about me and I need a distraction. Or I'm exhausted from performing all day. Or I want permission to enjoy myself without guilt. Listen to all of it, not just the surface level message, I want something sweet, but the deeper communication that's happening underneath. Now, here's what I want you to take away from today's episode. The permission you've been longing for, whether you've been moving forward without it, staying stuck waiting for it, that permission can only come from you, and you can give it to yourself. It's not permission to eat or not eat. It's permission to be human, permission to be imperfect, permission to trust yourself even when it's scary, permission to show up in your life authentically, messily, uncertainly, and know that you are still worthy, still enough, and still deserving of love and care. You've been operating for so long without this permission. Maybe it's looked like achieving and succeeding while carrying the weight of never feeling good enough. Or maybe it's looked like staying stuck, afraid or unable to move forward without external validation. And either way, you've been carrying this deep longing to just feel okay, to feel like you're enough, to feel like you don't have to have it all figured out. And this is the work. It's not learning more rules or strategies or meal plans, but learning to give yourself the permission you've been longing for all along. Permission to be exactly who you are right now in this moment. And when you can do that, when you can really internalize that permission, your relationship with food transforms. Not because you've mastered control, but because you finally have what you've been longing for, the permission to be imperfect, to be human, to trust yourself. This week, I invite you to notice. Notice when you're longing for permission. Notice whether you push forward anyway while carrying that weight or whether you stay stuck without it. And experiment with giving yourself the deeper permission. Permission to be imperfect. Permission to trust yourself. Permission to be human. There's no right way to do this. There's just your willingness to try and to learn along the way. Now, next week, we're going to explore something that connects to this concept beautifully. We're going to be talking about that part of you that says, screw it during the holidays. that rebellious part that feels like it's sabotaging you, but is actually trying to give you permission in its own way. So I can't wait to dive into that with you next week. And until then, remember, you don't need anyone else's permission. You just need your own. And you have that. You have always had that. You just need to start listening to it. That's what I have for you today. I'll see you next week. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, you will love my new book, The Binge Eating Breakthrough: Why Food Isn't the Problem and What Really Is. Discover why willpower isn't the answer, why restricting certain foods often backfires, and why understanding your brain and body is the key to lasting change. Learn to shift from shame and self-blame to curiosity and compassion. Get it today at janepilger.com/book.